Hey everyone, it's James from Fun Foods, and today I'm going to show you how to make these homemade sour straws. Now, this was suggested by one of my followers on TikTok, Matthew. Thank you so much for the suggestion. Keep watching, and I'll show you step by step how to make these. The first thing we're going to do is boil some water. Now, make sure you boil more than 1 cup of water because the recipe calls for 1 cup of boiling water. And when you boil water, some of it's going to evaporate. So make sure you use more. How much you use, totally up to you. So let's boil some water. While we're waiting for our water to boil, we're going to prepare our gelatin. Now, I'm going to use 2 packages of unflavored gelatin. Just pour that into a bowl here. And 1/4 cup of water. This can be just room temperature water or cold water. It really doesn't matter. Give that a slight mix through. And we'll wait for that gelatin to bloom. Once your unflavored gelatin has bloomed, what we're going to do now is add in some strawberry banana jello. You can use any flavor you want. That's the one I'm starting with. And I'm using 6 ounces of this. By the way, the unflavored gelatin was 1/2 ounce. So our water has come to a boil. Now we're just going to take 1 cup of that water carefully, boiling hot water, and add it. Mix this up until all that jello and unflavored gelatin has dissolved. So after all the gelatin has dissolved, next we're going to add in some citric acid. This is going to give it that sour taste. I got this on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description below. Now, of course, you probably don't need this much citric acid unless you plan on making a lot of recipes, but I'll put the link down there anyway. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of the citric acid to this. Mix it in. Now we want to let this sit until it comes to about room temperature. It could be a little hot, but we're going to be pouring it into plastic straws, and if it's too hot, it'll melt the straws. Next, I have a glass here that is both thin and tall, and the reason why is we want the liquid, when it fills it up, to go high as possible. So if you have a wide glass, you would have to get a lot more liquid. We're going to end up putting some straws in just like this, but we're not going to put the straws in yet. I have seen people do that, put the straws in first and try to fill the straws. You don't need to do that when it comes to liquid because we can just pour the liquid in the glass like this. Fill it up really good. And before we put in our plastic straws, we want it to cool down a bit. If we put it in there right now while the water is really, really hot, these plastic straws are going to melt, and that's not good. So let it come to room temperature or at least cool down a little bit. Once it's cooled down, just take a handful of straws and push it all the way down, just like so. And that's going to fill the straws with the liquid, and we're just going to let them firm up. Now, before we pull our sour straws out of the refrigerator, what we're going to do is I have a baking sheet here. And in this baking sheet, I'm going to put about 1/2 cup of powdered sugar, just kind of spread it out. And also about 1/2 cup of cornstarch. And just mix this pretty good right here. Now just take this, put this aside for the moment, and bring out our sour straws. Now you can see it's on here pretty good. I can't really just pull it out. So I'm just going to take a knife and go straight down. Kind of loosen it up a little bit. You can also run it under warm water. That'll help loosen it up. But because my glass is a little odd shape, if your glass was even straight on the way through like that, that would be fine. But my glass, it's not going to come out that way anyway. Just be careful not to cut yourself. And now run it underneath some warm water for just about 10 or 15 seconds. So this has proven to be quite difficult to get out. It might work out better if you have like a disposable cup that you can just cut down the sides and get it out nice and easily. So just something to think about. All right, it's getting somewhere. Let's see. Oh, finally. It did take a lot of work, but we got them out. Now just run them underneath the water again and clean up the outsides of each one. And now take these one by one. I'm gonna just clean it off with a paper towel just as we go. And you just wanna take your finger, your thumb, and kind of push these right on out onto that cornstarch and powdered sugar mixture. After I completed them, they were all done. They were too soft, so I let them sit out for a couple of days, and they did stiffen up a bit, but I'm really not happy with the texture of the way they look or they feel. So we're gonna start all over from scratch and just do it a little bit of a different way. This time we're gonna use 9 ounces of Jell-O, whichever 9 ounces you want. I have a 6-ounce package here and a 3-ounce. So we'll just take those, put it into a pot. Then we have some unflavored gelatin. This is gonna help make it a little stiffer. And I'm gonna use 5 packages of this. Each one of these packages are 0.25 ounces, so it's 1.25 ounces of unflavored gelatin. Then we're gonna use our citric acid, and we're gonna use 1 tablespoon of citric acid. Give this a mix. Now we're going to add 2/3 cups of water. This is less water than it would take to make an actual Jell-O package. Give it a little mix here. And wait about 5 minutes for that gelatin to bloom. So after 5 minutes, your gelatin should have thickened up a bit like this. Bring this over to the stove. We're going to heat this up until it's back to a liquid state. Just heat this up until that gelatin has dissolved. And when it's back to a liquid state, we can turn off our heat. All right, so after that's done, before we move on to the next step, I want to let it cool a little bit because I'm going to be using a plastic cup this time and of course plastic straws. And if it's too hot, it will melt the plastic cup and the plastic straws. But don't let it sit out too long because we don't want it to thicken up. Now we're going to pour our liquid into our plastic cup here. That's good, about 3/4 of the way up. Now we're going to put our straws in there. I put rubber bands around here just to hold them together, so it's not necessary, but it makes me happy. Now put your straws in. I'm gonna put this in the refrigerator just to speed the process up. You can leave it out if you want, but we'll make it quicker. When your gelatin hardens nicely, what we're gonna do is run it over some warm water just to loosen it up and separate the straws. Just like before, they're rather difficult to get out, so I'm gonna use a knife and cut around them. I do like the firmness of this batch, so that's good. Hopefully it's not going to be too firm to get out of the straws. And this is why I use plastic. Just open it up like this. And when it's out of the mold, we're going to run it over some more water again and try to melt away this exterior. Now we're going to separate straws one by one. Now we're going to push them out into our cornstarch and powdered sugar mixture, and hopefully they'll come out nicely. We'll see. So just take your thumb and push it out. Ooh, this is going to be tough. We may have to loosen it up with some warm water, each one individually. Okay, it's coming out. All right, and just coat it. For the exterior coating, we're going to mix 1/3 cup of sugar and 1 tablespoon of citric acid. Now take a cold and damp paper towel that I wetted but wrung out. So you don't want it to be soaking wet. You just want it to be completely wet and then wring it out real tight. Put that on a plate. Take our sour straws, wipe off the excess non-stickiness, and place on our damp paper towels. Take another cold damp rag and we're going to press on top of the ones there. Now, one by one, we're going to dip these into the sour solution. There we go. Now it's time for the taste test. I'm going to dig into one of the sour straws and see if it really tastes like a sour straw. This is very soury and very good. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching me make these homemade sour straws. It was a lot of fun making these, and thanks again to Matthew who suggested this on TikTok. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button and hit that big red subscribe button, get new videos all the time. And if you haven't watched yet, check out this video here. And until then, I'll see you next time. Time's it? Start over. More than 1 cup of boiling. You're going to put some water into a pan, and I'm talking too much. Once you're on, I have seen people, I want to let it come to temperature,